Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hello, I'm Joan Quinn, and thanks for selecting the Joan Quinn Profiles. In the studio, we have filmmaker Tiana and Cognac expert Maurice Hennessy. Tiana was born in Saigon. Her father, a diplomat in the South Vietnamese government, moved his family to Washington, D.C., then to Southern California. It wasn't hard for Tiana, who ignored her heritage, to fall into the cushy lifestyle of California. She married prominent writer-producer Sterling Silliphant, and they had a son. Even though she was the belle of the social circuit, she developed her acting in B-movies, she sang in music videos, and she even starred in a karate exercise tape. Hi, Tiana. I was so happy when I found you. You're on your way to Vietnam. I guess that's a constant thing with you.
Yeah, I go to Vietnam at least 3 times a year. It's my 15th trip in 6 years, so I'm on a mission.
Yeah, and your biggest project is your documentary From Hollywood to Hanoi.
Non-fiction film.
Correct me. Why don't we call it a documentary?
Because it really is a dirty word. It's the D word in our industry. They don't want to distribute us. They don't want to distribute documentaries. So like in bookstores, you have fiction films and non-fiction films and no one discriminates against the authors. Well, hopefully it'll happen because there's a wealth of incredible talent in non-fiction filmmaking, and we're distributing our films ourselves.
Do you think we're going to do away with that word completely? Documentary? It just seems to be so descriptive.
People think it's boring because there have been many boring documentaries, and they think they should see it for free on PBS.
That's true.
These are for the theaters. This is the Roger and Me, Panama Deception, which won the Oscar this year. The filmmaker can't pay her rent. She's living in the Midwest. Barbara Trent. She's made 7 of these incredible films. These are films to help our children inherit a better world. Films that can make a difference.
I agree. That's why I think that it's too bad that has a stigma attached to it.
Definitely does. At all the film festivals we've been at, we've been nominated, we've been winning at film festivals for the last year, and I tell you, they will pack a bad fiction film, and non-fiction filmmakers have to go out and flyer everybody. Come see my movie. What's it about? Because you don't have stars, you don't have chase scenes, you don't have sex scenes, but unless you're doing a film about, surrogate wives or something at UCLA.
No, but it is too bad. Say your Vietnamese name for me. I can't say it.
It's Tiana, and if you say it quickly twice, Tiana, Tiana means transparent moon. I never knew what my name meant until I went back to find my roots in Vietnam.
Say the whole thing, because there's more than just Chan Nha.
Thị Thanh Nga is my full name, and so it became Tiana.
Oh, I thought there was Nga.
That's Nga.
Oh, that's all one?
NGA is Nga.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Three separate words comes out to be.
Vietnamese is monosyllabic, like Mandarin.
Yeah. And you said you didn't know what your name was until you went back. What led you to go back to find your roots?
Well, I'd been an actress here in Hollywood. I studied with Sandra Seacott, and we do our dreams. And we were in Firenze, we were in Italy, and Laura Dern was there. In our class, Lily Tomlin, Meg Tilly, everyone studies with Sandra Seacott, and we're encouraged to do our dreams. And I have these recurring dreams. 5 Vietnamese women come to me in my dreams ever since I was 5 years old. Oh. So I do these women, and they said, "You're a one-woman show, you've got it." And I said, "No, these are voices that talk to me, they're very private." And they drew it out of me in acting class, and it was decided in acting class that I must go to Vietnam to find my roots. And then I thought, how do you go to a communist country? We have still to this day, 20 years after the war, we have no diplomatic relations with Vietnam. We don't trade with them. We trade with the government of Tiananmen Square, but we won't trade with Vietnam. So, you know, my parents thought I'd be captured and thrown into the Hanoi Hilton if I ever went back to Vietnam. But Vietnam vets have been going back, and they have been saying that the Vietnamese welcome you, and that I would find all the power of the universe would be there for me if I went back to find my roots. And I did in January of 1988, and I've been on this mission for 6 years.
But the thing, it wasn't something that was politically correct from the way I understand you're telling it. It's something that kept coming back to you and really manifested itself in an acting class.
Exactly.
Was your family behind you?
Well, they were appalled that I even wanted to be an actress. I ran away from home, came out to Hollywood when I was 15, and was, you know, Bruce Lee's protege. I mean, I studied with him from the time I was 13 years old. So I did a film with Sam Peckinpah, The Killer Elite. I did a lot of very important work. I was the Japanese girl in Pearl, the miniseries Pearl Harbor. But from Hollywood to Hanoi, in this film, I chose to poke fun at my years in Hollywood because actually it was very, very sad. The roles that I was up for, the girl in, you know, the Rambo films, there weren't any decent roles for Asian Americans.
Things have changed a lot now, and you're probably a part of all that change. Yes. I want to just start with a clip just to show what the movie looks like right now. It's the beginning of the film, and it tells, shows you as a child. Let's see that clip of Tiana from Hollywood.
Born in Saigon, the year of the dragon. Before I ever heard of Hollywood, I lived in a land of make-believe. We came from 100 eggs hatched by the Dragon King and Fairy Queen, Lac Long and Ao Cơ, who met under Mr. Sky thousands of years ago. My family descended from the Chinese in Guangdong province, but great-grandmama was quick to give up Buddhism when the American missionaries came. I come from a huge family. Dad told me about the day he met Mom. They met on a traditional bamboo swing. Their marriage was arranged, but it was love at first sight. In school, we sang songs about when our country would be at peace. My favorite subject was history. We were a people whose karma had brought us 2,000 years of warfare, a 1,000-year war with the Chinese, 100 years of French colonialism, and Japanese occupation. When we should have been learning our ABCs, we learned words like DMZ, the demilitarized zone that divided our country into North and South. Whenever I didn't eat my vegetables, Dad said I would be sent to Hanoi, where Ho Chi Minh would tear me from limb to limb and keep me from ever coming home. Dad was my real teacher. He filled me with stories about princes, dragons, and ancestors who wrote beautiful poetry.
So much of that looked like old footage.
Well, that was all the archival stuff about the family background. Well, I got it from Department of Defense, from Hanoi Archives. But the film is a very contemporary film. It's been compared a lot to Michael Moore's Roger and Me. It's about an American who came from somewhere, we're all immigrants, going back to find her roots in Vietnam. And I found my uncle, whom we were told were killed by the communists. I found my 2 aunts, and then I faced my parents in California. So it's a bridge for the healing and reconciliation of 2 countries, both my countries.
You had to go to Vietnam, and you had to shoot. You took a very small crew with you.
I trained a Vietnamese crew. I took just 1 cameraman.
Did you?
Yeah.
What about language?
I had to translate morning, noon, and night. It's really hard.
But what languages did you speak?
Well, in Vietnam, we speak Vietnamese, French, and English. And
so you were able to speak all three languages?
Yes, and that really helped a lot. And we were able to interview the Politburo and the legendary historical leaders of Vietnam, the man closest to Ho Chi Minh, Pham Van Dam, Le Duc Tho, and General Giap. General Giap beat the French and the Americans.
Did you have to brush up on your Vietnamese, or did it come pretty naturally?
I love language, and the people really helped me, and I speak Vietnamese at home, so that really helped a lot. I do recommend going back to your roots for everyone, even if it's just in your dreams. It's so important that we don't turn our backs on our heritage.
When you actually got there and had to work with these people, did it change your feelings of what you were into?
Oh, absolutely. In nonfiction, you don't have a script. It's not script-driven.
It's not, so you weren't
Right.
storyboarded?
You're not dealing with actors. You don't know what real people will say, what will take you to the next passionate human moment.
See.
So it's you create it in the cutting room, really. And I've been invited to teach film school at Dartmouth. I've been at Dartmouth the last 2 quarters, and this is my first film. So I said, what do you want me to teach them? They said, teach these kids how to make a film like this one. And I think it's because it's the new trend. I just spoke at the Directors Guild on new wave filmmaking. The new trend is that anyone and everyone can pursue their dream and put it together, be it a painting or a film.
Well, you can put it together, but then what about getting it in the theaters? How do you market it? You brought all this stuff to show us what you were doing.
I'm distributing the film myself, and this
must be the hardest part of it.
The hardest part was not
Hold
filming
it
in
up
a
for a
communist country. The hardest part, in the film, a woman said, a Vietnamese woman who lived in the Cu Chi tunnels during the war, she said, go make your movie. Go make your film, come back and build me a house. And my editor and my cameraman is going to go do that. But this is what we have to do. We have order forms, you sell the hats. I guess Spike Lee started it too.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm doing this for a nonprofit foundation. I formed Indochina Film Arts Foundation. All proceeds for the rest of my life, everything I do, will go to help underprivileged children in Vietnam.
Well,
so,
we
have a special screening of From Hollywood to Hanoi.
We have to thank you, because I know you're the best marketer. and what I was thinking is, maybe the next time we see Tiana, she'll be our next U.S. ambassador to Vietnam, or maybe you'll be the Vietnamese ambassador to the United States.
Well, if only we would just lift that stupid trade embargo and normalize relations, a lot of families would be reunified. It's about family reunification.
And we're glad you came back, because we're reunified after years and years of knowing each other. And congratulations on your film, and thanks for being with us. Don't go away. We'll be back with Mr. Maurice Hennessy. Hello, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with Maurice Richard Hennessy. He was born in Paris and lived in the southwestern part of France, the Cognac region. Maurice is a member of the 8th generation of renowned Hennessy family, a long-time respected cognac producers. The company was founded in 1765 and to this day is a leader in the field. We have a lot of questions to ask you, Maurice. Tell us, first of all, welcome for being with us.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. And tell us the difference between cognac and brandy, or if there is a difference.
Well, cognac is a brandy. Brandies are distilled wine, and cognac is one distilled wine, but it is only made in one region of France, called the Cognac region, with special grapes, and then distilled in a special way, double distilled in copper alembic pot stills, and then aged in French oak barrels for many, many years.
Did you have to go to school to learn all of those technical things?
Oh no, you live amongst them. That's part of the heritage. That's part of life. I went to farming school, but not to to a school for cognac. Cognac you learn on the spot.
But actually, if you went to an agriculture school, it would help you, wouldn't it, in what you're doing now?
Exactly. I mean, you know, I'm not personally owner of vineyard, but my father is, and one day I will be interested, probably. And of course, you need that information to run a vineyard and to cultivate vines.
When you actually finished school, you didn't go right to work for the Hennessy family.
No.
What did you do?
I tried other things. Well, I went to Africa, to a land called Upper Volta in those times, to do a kind of Peace Corps work using my knowledge in agriculture.
Did you help them?
That was the idea, building wells and growing rice and teaching them reading and writing and things like that.
Anything that they were doing at the time that was so simple that you were able to bring back to your country and use?
The people themselves give you much more than you will ever think of giving them. I mean, you know, simple way of thinking and things like that.
You talked about cognac being from a certain region, brandy being from a certain region. How is it made? Run us through the vineyard, the wine.
Well, first of all, you grow grapes, and then you make wine. You make a wine which is a drinkable wine, very acidic, very dry, but it is a wine. This wine is then distilled twice in copper stills, and then aged in oak barrels, French oak barrels, for many, many years. At Hennessy, we have value of a stock of about 250,000 barrels, which is the largest stock of old cognac in the business. It's very important stock.
Do you keep those forever, or do
we
you
keep them for many years? Because you have to realize that you were mentioning earlier on the Hennessy Paradis or the Hennessy XO, it requires many of the cognac in the blend are over 50 years old. As the cognac which you drink is not the result of a single year or a single property, it's always the blending of several years, several properties of the region of cognac.
When the grapes are made into wine, is it just white grape, or is it a red grape?
White grape, exactly. White grape and a white wine. The variety of grape is known as Uni Blanc, and it's I think it's grown too here in California.
The other thing is, part of the cognac making is distilling and aging. You talked about that, and are there different things about the distilling that you can tell us?
Distilling is a long process. And very careful. You have your wine in small pot stills, and you warm it up. It evaporates, and the vapors of this one is then concentrated and cooled down and makes a liquid. This liquid is known as brouillis, and it's about 25% pure alcohol.
So that's why the proof is so high when you talk about...
Yes, well, that's only the first distillation. The second distillation, you do the same thing, and then you have young cognac, which is 70% pure alcohol, which is 140 American proof. That's very high. But then with the aging and the evaporation for the aging, then it reduces. And after many years, the cognac which you drink, I mean, this Hennessy VSOP is only 80 American proof. We don't sell higher proof than that, but it's more than wine, of course.
But can cognac be too old? Can there be too much age on it?
Yes, it can happen. We taste our cognacs every year. We know when it's sort of starting to be too old. Then we put it in demi-john, which are 20-liter sized bottle, and the cognac doesn't age in a bottle. But we tend to use them before they are getting too old for our older qualities like XO or Hennessy Paradis, because it would be very sad to waste it.
Could it be too young?
Oh yes, but then you don't use it. By law, it has to be 2.5 years old anyway.
Oh, I see. So there is legal requirements on what you do. Now, one of the things also, you were talking about blending. Who does the blending?
So we have what is known as a maître de chai, master blender, and in our firm at Hennessy, we have the same family of master blenders since the beginning of the firm. So for 7 generations,
Really?
we are using at the moment Yan Filiu, who is the 7th generation of Filiu to work for us.
So they kind of pass on that
the
taste.
tradition. And they are brought up in this tradition too.
That's very interesting, because one of the things I read on the release that I got from your company was that the blender feels like this is a symphony. It's
Yes.
like a music.
Yes,
Do
he's
you-
a composer.
Yes. Do
He's
you
a
see him
composer.
doing that?
Yes, I mean, except that he doesn't act with a baton, but he takes several samples of different cognacs, which he makes together in such a way like it can be compared with instrument in a symphony.
Is that
you
right?
have a little bit of triangle, or a big bit of the alto, or the viola, or and all that. I mean, it's all like that.
But it's according to his taste then, his
Well,
feelings.
The basic idea is that the Hennessy VSOP, for example, which you drink today, and the one which you drank last year, and the drink which you will drink in Hong Kong, in Paris, in New York, in LA, is always the same. And you have to realize that years after years, the crops which are made by the vineyard are different.
That's what I would think. Also, on the label, and I don't know if our viewers know about it, I always forget what these things mean. VS.
VS means very special. It's a cognac which is full of life, and which can be compared to jazz, and which is the most drunk cognac in the world. Hennessy VS is #1 in the world.
And VSOP.
That means very superior old pale. It's a cognac which must be at the same time of good quality, aged, but pale in color and mainly in tannin. So it must be very light, not too much woody taste.
And who actually gives you the description so that you know what you're looking for?
Well, it's tradition.
Oh, I see.
The first orders of Hennessy VSOP happened in 1820s. So, you know, we have worked.
Really far back. Then you mentioned XO.
XO. Well, we invented XO. XO was invented by my great-great-grandfather in 1865 for the first centennial of Hennessy. And it was the family and friend cognac at the beginning, drunk at home. And then it became a world success to the extent that in 1980, our competitors started to use the magical letters XO.
Oh, they did?
But the original XO is Hennessy XO.
I see. And the last one, Paradis.
Paradis is the name, well, Paradis is paradise.
Paradise, yes.
And, so it's the name of certain aging warehouses where very old cognac are kept, but it doesn't mean that all the cognac coming into the Paradis are coming from these warehouses. It simply means old cognac, really.
Can normal people afford Paradis or XO?
Yes, if they are ready to part with, I believe here, good, it's about a $300 bill for Paradis and over 100 for XO. But it's worth it.
Will you, I love the label. It has just this kind of simplicity to it. Will you explain?
This bottle was designed by the grandfather of the present cellar master. He was called Raymond Filiu. He was a great friend of my grandfather. And he designed that for him as a decanter which you could hold in your hand as a kind of, you know, a nurse in your hand. And it was nice for him to handle it. It was very different than the bottle of the time, which was very traditional. And he did that as a joke, really. And we used it during the 50s a little bit. But then we registered it, and it was a bottle which we now use for the Hennessy Privilege.
And the label is?
The label is the Hennessy symbol. It means cognac, which means it comes from the town of Cognac. Hennessy, which is a great name. VSOP, very superior old pale.
Very superior. It's beautiful. You said he held it like a nurse.
Yes.
And I always hear people say, even people who don't drink, and they say, oh, you've got to go to bed if you have a cold or the flu and take a shot of cognac. Do you think that's a good medicine?
I'm not a doctor. I would not advise anybody on medical. What I can tell you is I do it.
Right. I think that's something that's passed on from
It's
generations. I remember my
especially
grandmother.
in my family.
In your family, but even my grandmother used to always say, just bundle up and take a shot of cognac. That'll heat you up and you'll feel better in the morning. One of the things that you mentioned, but we didn't get to really talk about, and we don't have that much time, is cooperage. What does that mean?
Cooperage is a place where they make barrels. Barrels are made. It's a very old traditional craft. It's worth visiting and seeing too. Traditional cooperage is a wonderful job. It's very hard, and barrels are made out of oak, which is split.
I see.
Then the old oak is then aged outside, seasoned for 2 or 3 years, and then the barrels are assembled. And one new barrel of cognac is worth $400 or $500 empty.
Oh,
So you see the amount of work behind it.
I see.
And at Hennessy, we export barrels too in California, in Bordeaux, of course, in Australia, but of course for Hennessy.
But that's a very important part of the business.
It's very important. The storing of cognac is one of the most important part of the education or the raising of cognac.
And where do you live all the time?
I live mostly in Cognac, France, the southwest of France, but I travel a lot.
And how far is that from Paris?
By TGV it's 2 hours, 20 minutes, and you arrive in the main station and it takes about 3/4 of an hour. By car, or by car only, it takes 4 or 5 hours, depending on the traffic and your speed.
So the next time I'm in Paris,
Oh, you
I'll
can.
take the train
Do.
and
Call
meet
us
you.
and visit.
Is it a winery? Is it called a
Yeah.
winery? So we'll visit the winery.
Yes, yes.
So
it's open every working day and it's free for the visit, and they have English-speaking guides.
Oh, wonderful. We'll look forward to it. Thank you, Maurice,
Thank
for
you very
being
much.
with us. And thanks for watching our cognac expert today. We'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.